Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Decision Hour. I'm your host, Adam Bird, and I got a great interview lined up for you guys today. We got a powerhouse couple on the phone with us today. We're going to be talking about an event that's coming up March 7th called ReEngage. They are the founders of this event, and I'm really excited because you're going to learn a lot today. And if you're in the Pittsburgh area, you're going to definitely want to turn this up and take a listen. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on my guests, Adam Zaffuto and Alex Pursglove Zaffuto. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Oh my God, yes. First timer. Yes. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great, Adam. It's great to be here.
Well,
thank you so much. Absolutely.
So thank you for taking time because I know you guys are busy. Let's jump right into it. Why don't you guys tell our listeners a little bit about yourselves?
Sure.
Yeah. Do you want to start out?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my name's Adam. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And in 2008, I joined the Army, dropped out of college, joined the Army, ended up at Fort Benning, the School of Infantry. And I was an 11 X-ray until the drill sergeants came out and separated everybody into groups and said, you apparently, the 50 of you, know how to do math. You're going to be 11 Charlies. The 300 of you, I guess you don't know how to do math. You're going to be 11 Bravos. So about 4 months later, ended up at Fort Bliss with 1st Brigade, 1st Armored Division.
Okay.
I spent the next 6.5 years there until I moved back here to Pittsburgh when I got out in 2015.
Nice. Well, thank you. So 11 Charlie, that's mortars, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Right.
All right.
That's right. Infantry that can think.
Yes. Yeah. The smart guys. And Alex, what about you?
Yeah. Well, so I'm also from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Adam and I actually met in high school. So we're both from around the area.
Oh, nice.
But when he went off to the Army, I moved out to California to pursue a career in the film industry. Yeah, when I got out of school, and spent a few years out there. Ended up going through a bit of a health crisis when I was 24. Really kind of shifted my priorities in life. Made me decide I wanted to move home, get out of film, and start pursuing a career with a little bit more meaning and significance to it. And so it was right around that time. I had been home a few years when Adam got out of the Army, and we reconnected kind of randomly out with some friends one night, and and started dating. So he had just been home a month. I'd been home a couple of years.
Yeah. September of 2014.
Yeah, November.
So how long have you guys been married?
2.5 years.
Yeah,
That's cool. It's kind of a love story. I wasn't expecting this, but I like that. That's a good. All right. Good stuff. So you guys been married 2.5 years. What's this ReEngage thing? There's an event coming up. I want to jump right into this because I'm really excited to talk about this. It's ReEngage. I love the name of it. What is it?
Yeah.
Good.
Well, it's a conference for veterans and civilians, but the goal is to encourage and empower veterans to explore their higher purpose, to connect to their communities, and to pursue their greatest potential.
Okay.
And so we really founded the event sort of based on Adam's experiences and then our experiences together as he got out of the Army. Because like I said, we started dating when he had been out for just a month. And so I was kind of along the ride for Adam's whole transition out of the military. And so I'll let him talk about that.
Yeah. I've said a couple of times, talking to people that I felt trained and prepared and ready to go to Iraq. And I felt prepared and ready to go to Afghanistan. Like I knew my job. I knew what we were doing. I knew what my little piece to play was in the platoon. It was when I got out of the Army, it was one of the first times in a long time that I had felt totally unprepared. And the Army ACAP program, I think they try, but it's a check the box kind of system where you show up, you're there to check the box, they're there to check the box. Everybody's there to just get out the door.
Yep.
And so I didn't particularly learn anything. I'd go to these, small business veteran entrepreneurship seminar at the ACAP program. And I'd go in and it would basically be a 10-minute spiel on how you can access government small business loans. Nothing about how do you find a market? How do you find an area that you're interested in working in? How do you decide that, hey, I actually want to be an entrepreneur? Those things aren't talked about at all. And so I got out and I did what I thought I was supposed to do. I used my GI Bill, started going to school, and was miserable. I felt completely alone. Although I was surrounded by people that loved me, I felt completely alone because I was starting to self-isolate because I wanted to present that picture to the world of, hey, I'm back from the Army and everything's fine. When underneath the surface, you're dealing with all of the issues and experiences that I had overseas. And then also that kind of lack of transition, and you don't fit back into that piece in the puzzle of civilian world that you came out of.
Right.
You don't fit there anymore. So trying to find, what's my purpose?
Right.
Because I was a mortar team leader in Afghanistan, and I got time to work as a section sergeant. When you have 30 guys that work for you and depend on you getting your job done so that the platoon can be effective, that's a very purposeful job. And when your mission is, I'm going to try to get my guys home alive to their families, that's an incredibly purposeful job.
Right.
When I get out and I'm going to college, it's not a ton of purpose in.
We're not sure what to do. In the military, we wake up and, most people know that I did 9 years Army myself, and it was, I know I was going to eat on a good day 3 times a day, if you're in garrison. In the field, maybe, an MRE or 2 a day, whatever. But you knew what you had to do. And then when you transitioned out, or when I transitioned out in 2007, after almost 10 years, it was, hey, pat on the back, here you go. Yeah. Like, there was no transition at that time for me. And it was like, okay, now what? I guess I have to go get a job. I guess that's what you're supposed to do, or whatnot. And what's crazy to me is even that time between me getting out and you getting out, and even our brothers and sisters that are getting out right now, they're still facing problems with the transit. Yeah. Granted, the military is trying, but it's I guess you can say it's trying, because it's really not anywhere near where it needs to be right now. Exactly. It's almost like they're pushing it back on you. It's like, all right, here you go. Thank you. But you're on your own now.
Exactly. And that's, the military loves to take care of the people as far as they can when you're inside the military.
Right.
You're going to get your health care taken care of. If you break something, it's going to get fixed. If you need, you need to talk to somebody, there's going to be somebody to talk to. If you want to change your career in the military, there's going to be a career counselor that walks you through, okay, we need to get your TS done, and then we need to get you into the next AIT at wherever it is that you're going to learn that MOS.
Right.
But when you get out, it is very much like, here's a pat on the back, handshake, here's your DD-214, hope you don't see you again.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, now that I got this DD-214 that, at least when I was a private, all of the specialists told me that this is exactly what you should be trying to get, is this DD-214, because you're going to be free and you're going to be happy again. And then when I got that, I got my honorable discharge and my DD-214, it's like, okay, well, what now? What's next? Right. And I didn't particularly know what was next. And I think that lack of purpose caused a lot of the struggles that I had, trying to deal with.
Adam, I like the fact that you're saying purpose a lot in this, because one of the things that we do here a lot at the show that we literally preach about, as well as our overall parent network here as Media Group, is you have to find purpose in life. If you're walking around life with no purpose, it's going to be very lonely. You have to, and the sooner that you can find that purpose, and it doesn't matter what it is. You can go out, and if your purpose is to flip burgers at a fast food joint because that's what makes you happy, then by golly, go do that. That's your purpose. You know that's going to make you happy. Or if it's doing talk shows or whatever the case may be, find that purpose. And I love the fact that you're saying that, because I think a lot of what's happening is our brothers and sisters that are coming out of the military, they're not, they think about the transition side of it way too late. Like, I'm getting out in 6 months. Maybe I should start thinking about it. No, you're getting out in like a year and a half, like 18 months at the latest. I'm thinking about
getting your ducks in a row.
You need to start thinking about, what I want to do if I'm not going to re-enlist in 18 months and I'm going to go home. What is it that I'm going to do? Because that comes up to you like that.
Exactly.
I think the other thing too that Adam and I have talked a lot about is not only did he struggle with not knowing what he wanted to do, or he hadn't thought that much about what he wanted to do after the military, but he also...
Yeah, I just knew that I had done a tour in Iraq. I had done a tour in Afghanistan, and the war was winding down. And I knew that I didn't want to be a line infantryman anymore. And working in an office has never sounded like something that I'd be particularly interested in. Right. And so it was my time in the Army, I didn't plan on making it a career. It was what I wanted to do. I did 2 tours. I planned on doing 1, and I ended up getting to do 2. So I count myself lucky to have had that opportunity, but my time in the Army was done.
Right. And so I think on top of not knowing where you wanted to go from there, it was also believing that you could have a really purposeful, meaningful career post-military, because you were so confused on what you wanted to do. And that's something, Adam had shared with me, was he was hearing so much negativity in the news and on the media about, all the struggles that exist within the veteran community, or you were also watching some of your friends go through these struggles, and so you really struggled to believe that you were capable of doing something that was as meaningful as what you did in the Army. And so that was something that that we really explored a lot together, was where can we find more of the inspiring, positive veteran success stories that you can look at, right, and find empowering for yourself as you watch these people that are succeeding and saying, oh, I am going to be a successful veteran entrepreneur, or I am going to, pursue something that's really purposeful post-military. I'm going to continue to serve something bigger than myself. And it took a while for you to, really embrace that, because you were surrounded by so much negativity when you got out as well.
Let me ask you this. Do you think some of it is a mindset coming out, that we're just like, our mindset being in the military is like, you're trained to do this, this, and this, and you're the best at your job. Like, you don't care. You go up against anybody, right? And then when you come out, you don't necessarily have that. When you're trying to find your purpose, or you're trying to find out like what's next, you don't have somebody there like, hey, go do this. You can do this. Like, I think, at least for me on a personal level, when I got out of the military, I didn't. My self-esteem just went out the door. Like, I was just like, oh, I'm nobody. I'm nothing.
Yep.
Does that make sense? I mean, do you see? Are you guys seeing that even today with the people that you guys work with?
100% that, when I got out of the military, I was very good at shooting mortars. Excellent with a plotting board. I can work a LHMBC mortar computer. Expert at it. Wonderful at working a mortar. There's not a ton of jobs where you're shooting mortars. It's just not something that's, you can search LinkedIn and ZipRecruiter and all of the websites. Nobody's looking for somebody with mortar experience. And so I came out like, I'm an expert. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm a good infantryman, good sergeant, great with mortars. Nobody's looking for professional gunfighters, right, unless you want to be a police officer. And it's just something I wasn't interested in. And so for me, it was like, okay, well, if my entire ego and, self-worth is kind of wrapped up in being a sergeant in the infantry, and then that's removed from you when you get back to the civilian world, and you're not a sergeant, you were a sergeant, and it doesn't really matter to anybody else in the world. And so, that loss of kind of self-identity and who am I, what am I worth, what is my value here in this world was something that I came out and was like, oh, I felt great 6 months ago when I was in the Army. Now I'm out of the Army, and I thought I was supposed to be happy.
Right.
I thought I was supposed to be happy. And for me, it was a weird feeling of feeling like I was between, they say a rock and a hard place. And I felt like I was between, two rocks and two hard places. I was happy I wasn't getting shot at anymore. But I was miserable because I wasn't getting shot at anymore.
It's almost like getting shot at, is a lot easier than just dealing with the everyday life, paying bills and trying to figure out what you're
deployment life is easy.
Yeah.
It's really, you do what find out when you're going to eat, find out what you're supposed to do. And life is pretty simple.
Right.
And I wondered why. I was like, I should be happy. I'm not in combat. I'm back here in this beautiful civilian world, getting paid to go to school, but I'm miserable. And all I'm thinking about is wanting to go back and should I re-enlist? Should I go back to the military and see if I can get another deployment under my belt?
So we take we take this whole experience and we put it into this ReEngage. And what's the website? So the listeners right now, if you're listening to the show, why don't we give them the website to where they can go to?
Yeah, it's reengagepgh.com.
Okay.
And as we were saying before, that we've based ReEngage off of Adam's experiences, there were a couple things that made a really big difference for Adam. So the first year out was really tough, and our relationship almost ended about 10 months after we started dating, because it was also difficult for me, right, to understand what he was going through, and to, I tried, but he also didn't want to talk that much about it. And so, I was also at a bit of a loss in trying to know what my role was in his transition and in our relationship. And so, so our relationship almost came to an end. And then Adam was introduced to a veteran through his program at Duquesne University here in Pittsburgh that recommended he check out. They have a free psychology services at the university. And so he started.
They have a military psychology clinic.
Oh, okay. All right.
Focuses on veterans and specifically kind of in the area of PTSD and more looking at it through the lens of moral injury instead of looking at it as a medical diagnosis.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then we started going to counseling together for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And then at that time, I was also starting my business as a business and success coach. And so I was diving into my own personal growth and development. And then Adam started kind of joined the journey of personal growth with me. We started going to seminars and workshops together, and he was reading and listening to podcasts, and I was doing my own work. And so and at that same time, you also started volunteering, at veteran organizations. And so he sort of re-engaged in his community, re-engaged, in our relationship, re-engaged in his own growth and prioritizing his development. And it's made such a difference. I mean, we had the gentleman who introduced Adam to the counseling center actually just told us recently that he couldn't imagine Adam from 4 years ago putting on ReEngage, and now like Adam's a new person. And I think that just that growth journey and that process made, I mean, I don't know how else to say it. It just made such a huge difference.
Yeah. And it's ReEngage is kind of I think a compilation of lessons learned, not only from myself, but from a lot of other veterans here in Pittsburgh of how were their struggles impacted by these organizations that we're working with. What are the things that they learned? It's, if you could go back and before all of those, those lessons learned in the military or in life that you're like, wish somebody would have told me that before I got there. What if you had somebody who could tell? What if you had a bunch of people that have been through the exact same things that you've been through, who did these certain things and can tell you this is going to be impactful, this is going to help you, losing kind of the victim mentality of woe is me, and if the VA would only do their job, my life would be fine. And if somebody would do something, everything would be fine for me, when the answer really is, what are you doing for yourself?
Right.
Are you choosing to, people talk about, oh, you know, I just don't want to talk to people because they don't understand. Well, how many people have you tried to talk to? Or are you just self-isolating because it's easier to self-isolate? Because that's what I did.
Right.
It was easier for me to just not talk to people, not talk to my girlfriend at the time, now wife, you know, to just, I'm fine. Even though she knows I'm not fine.
Right.
And I didn't have to share with her all of the incredibly intense experiences, but I got to tell her about, you know, what it's like to be in an infantry platoon living on an outpost, surrounded by the guys that you love, going up against the enemy, and what just the camaraderie. And it was those little kind of glimpses into my military experience that allowed Alex to get some context and some understanding around, why am I so close with my friends from the military?
Right.
Why, even when they make mistakes and act like idiots, I still love the guy. And it's not gonna change. It's like, Alex, I've gotten into fist fights with these guys against each other, and then hugged each other and we're like,
Right.
oh, I love you.
Yeah.
You know, that's just how the way life is in, you know, combat infantry companies. And ReEngage is, like you said, it's the lessons learned from myself, from a ton of other veterans going all the way to Vietnam era veterans. But these are lessons learned on these organizations were important in their transition, and it can help your struggles. And it doesn't have to be just working with a nonprofit that helps with homeless veterans, but it could be organizations like the Mission Continues, which they focus on doing community organized veteran service projects where they're helping to revitalize communities. And those are things that I wish I had been exposed to, because I think it would have been a real impact in me, instead of choosing to self-isolate and to kind of not want to engage with anybody or talk. It would have been, you go there, you meet somebody, you have a good time. And then that's where they can kind of breach that gap of, hey man, like, I had a lot of struggles when I was getting out of the military, and these resources were beneficial for me going to counseling, talking to these people. It's a lot easier to breach that gap when you're in common cause with somebody that you have built a relationship with.
Folks, if you're listening to the show, open up another browser, go to reengagepgh.com to get all the information for the event coming up Saturday, March 7th from 8 a.m. to 3:30 at Heinz History Center in Pittsburgh. If you're not near Pittsburgh, go to Pittsburgh. Take the weekend. Spoil yourself. You'll have a good
hotel
time.
right across the street.
Right. Real quick, because we're coming up on time, talk a little bit about who you guys. You guys got quite a lineup with this event as well. You guys want to talk a little bit about that, and maybe a little bit about the breakout sessions?
Yeah, and something too, Adam, we want to make sure that we make really clear to everyone, because we've had one or two people say, oh, well, I have a job, so this isn't for me. Or, oh, well, you know, I'm doing all right, so this event isn't for me. And that's what we want to make sure everyone knows. This event is for every veteran. It's meeting every veteran where they are. And it's not just looking about where you can go to the next level and how you can up level your life. So no matter where you are, maybe you're doing great in your career, and that's wonderful. Where can you up level your life at home, or where can you give back and serve more in your community? And that's what we're really excited about with our lineup of speakers and with the breakout sessions, is it's kind of addressing all different topics, like I said, to meet every veteran where they are and to look at where we can all grow based on where we each are. So we've got our first speaker actually that we called up when we launched the conference was Rocky Blyer, who, if you don't know Rocky.
Love Rocky.
You should go ahead and Google who Rocky Blyer is.
Yeah, if you don't know who he is.
Listen, if you don't know who Rocky Blyer is and you're a veteran, you're living on a, like, get out. Like, come on. Let's, like, I'm not even, I know Rock just because I've worked with Rocky on several occasions in the past, and just a great guy. I'd love spending time with him. So,
yeah.
And he is pictured in Pittsburgh, a real picture of a guy who had all the fame and accolades in the world as a 4-time Super Bowl champion, 1,000-yard rusher, and then stays in Pittsburgh and has made a tremendous amount of impact over 40 years in the Pittsburgh community, in the veterans community. And it was him and these circle of Vietnam veterans that were able to make an incredible impact here in Pittsburgh.
Nice.
Yes, we're thrilled to have him. And we also have Jeremy Statt, who's actually another former Pittsburgh Steeler, but lives out in California now. He's flying in for the weekend to speak at the event. And then we have Ariana Hunter, who is the Director of Veteran Services at the University of Pittsburgh. She's got an incredible story. And then we have Nick Grimes, Tunch and Wolf, who are Steeler broadcasters here in Pittsburgh. Adam and I will be speaking as well. And then for our breakout sessions, like I said, they cover different topics. We've got Freedom and Movement, looking at your physical health and adventure by John Kolb, who is a former teammate of Rocky Blyer. And then we've got Mike Chirac is leading a session on when being a veteran doesn't matter in the workplace, and kind of looking at that transition. Yeah, that's going to be a real interesting topic.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. And then Chris Phillips from PNC, she's going to be leading a session on leading by example with grace and discipline. And we've got Eric Guy from the Center for Victory, he's a civilian, leading a topic on, it's called My Vet, My Hero, Healing a War-Torn Relationship. It's about his relationship with his father, who's a Vietnam veteran.
Nice.
That's a really powerful story. A session on becoming what your role is as you become an elder in society as a veteran. As well as Sheldon Williams leading a session on finding faith in the foxhole. So we've got all kinds of different topics and panels and keynotes, and it's going to be a really exciting day.
Yeah.
Is this the first year that you're doing it?
First year. Yeah.
Nice. So this is many years to come, I feel. So that's great. Congratulations to both of you, and
thank you.
Much,
thank you for putting this on. And I'm eager and excited to watch this grow in the Pittsburgh community, as well as watching it expand over the next several years outwards. Folks, again, if you're listening to the show, open up another browser, go to reengagepgh.com. Saturday, March 7th is ReEngage from 8 a.m. to 3:30, Heinz History Center. You got to go check it out in Pittsburgh. Adam, Alex, any last words before we let you go today?
Sure. Well, for everybody listening to podcasts, I work with an organization called the Veterans Breakfast Club, and we have a great podcast coming out called The Truth About War, which will be launching April 20th. And that's going to be BBC's new podcast. First season will be coming out. Some great interviews. Lynn Novak is one of the interviews. She worked with Ken Burns on the Vietnam documentary that they did, as well as Alejandro Villanueva will also be one of the podcast interviews. So yeah, look forward to that. It's coming out April 20th. I told our executive director, Todd, I wouldn't go onto a podcast without mentioning that.
Nice. Very nice. Well, folks, that's all the time that we have today. We appreciate you listening. Before we let you go, make sure you check out our home parent network, Heroes Media Group. Check out all the podcasts, shows, articles that are over there. Simply go to www.heroesmediagroup.com. Until next time, you've been listening to The Decision Hour.